just a heads up, I do have to leave like around like 4.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, because I'm gonna be after this. I'm heading to Lee's and I'm going home. Like always, I'm heading to Lee's.
Some things never change. You wonder if you got your Lee's shirt on, man.
Man, I got the Angola, Indiana shirt on. Representing.
Represent anytime.
But no, I just wanted to talk to you about just like how you feel like your life has, because we're 10 years out of high school now, which they haven't had a reunion yet, or
let's see. Well, we are. Oh my gosh, we already. Like I was even thinking. Well, I graduated from St. Francis in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
So what? That's like 6. That's like 6 years out.
6 years. I graduated from Full Sail at 2016. So that's 8 years.
Yeah, man.
So it's crazy how fast time is moving. But for yourself though, how has it been? Just like, you're married now. You have a kid now.
Yeah.
You have a huge responsibility as a leader. Being a youth pastor here in Fort Wayne at the City Church and stuff.
Man.
Like, how do you feel like your life has changed in the last 5 years? You would say.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think the coolest thing that I've been learning as a father and as just, like you said, as a leader and all the things that have taken place is, one, I think too often we take advantage of time. I think that's like the biggest thing. Like when I was like, I was thinking that I was being super efficient with my time and super diligent and was stewarding my time well when I was in my early 20s. Now looking back, dude, now that I have a kid, dude, I'm like, listen, I was like, I have 2 hours to either to myself or to do this work or to get this work out there and do whatever, and like being efficient with that and acknowledging that and not taking it for granted, but then also not taking for granted the time that I do have with my wife, the time that I do have with my child, the time that I do have with my fellow leaders here, because I realized how much, how many, just the garbage minutes that were in my early days. Like we really do have that freedom. We really have that freedom. And so I think if there's been something that has changed in my own personal perception, it's been stewarding the things that I've been given.
Right.
Stewarding the things that I've been given.
Which is huge, man. I mean, and then, too, like, I think I think obviously our maybe parts of our mission changes, right? Or maybe even sometimes part of our purpose changes in ways. And I feel like, I mean, for me, man, it's crazy. Looking back 10 years ago, I remember I made like a little, I don't know, it was like some status on Facebook, and I talked about how I wanted to be successful in my journey in film, and then come, not necessarily move back, but like come give my insight and my information and my experience to this area. For you, man, what was one of those things that really, what was a lesson that you felt like you got taught when you got married and when you had your child? Like, what is a lesson that you have felt like really has been impactful for you?
I think the biggest thing, man, is, you were talking about goals and things that we have, and I think the coolest, I think one of the coolest things, but also your biggest hindrance of being a single individual, is that you have control of it all.
Yeah.
And if you want the community that you desire, the joy that you see other people having, that means you have to acknowledge the fact that your life is no longer your own.
Yeah.
And so, like, I know that you're learning this within your relationship with Destiny, and so making that decision to be in unity with her, that means that part of yourself needs to die.
Man,
and so for me, like, whether it was, initially it was that first year of marriage, which is one of the hardest. Like, I would say the first, 3 to 5 years of marriage is hard because you're bringing, there's gonna be unintentional baggage that you're bringing in that you realize you haven't reconciled yet. And in order for y'all to be one body, to be unified, to be on the same team, you got to reconcile those things, and that means that part of yourself has to die. In the same way,
that's real.
The first 3 months of having my sweet girl, there was. I wasn't sleeping when I wanted to sleep. I was sleeping when I could sleep. You know what I mean? Like, as simple as that. Yeah. But then the same. It's like, okay, that means the things I'm saying, the things that I'm doing, how I'm behaving, and how I'm responding is going to be a direct reflection to my child one day. Whether it's now or later on, I have to realize, okay, I have to make those decisions now of killing off any part of my flesh that was, I'm going to do it my way, I'm going to do it this way, because there's just no room for it. There's just no room for it. So, but in doing that, though, that has also opened up the avenue for more authenticity. My heart is a lot softer. I would say like the early 20s, I was more of a stoic than anything else. It was like that's just the way life is, and we're just gonna keep it pushing. Now it's like, okay, let those feelings come in. I was like, one, because they're there for a reason, but then acknowledging them in a way that, okay, how are we gonna turn this into something good?
Exactly.
And so that those have been some things that I've been taking into my late 20s, into now going into that 30-year-old almost
coming,
adulthood. It's creeping, man.
Yeah.
But then also taking it into that first year of fatherhood, taking it into my third year of marriage. We're about to celebrate our 3 years on the 7th, man. And so just reflecting on, I'm very thankful that I still have that drive. The drive has never left, but the drive has now been repositioned towards a better target.
Right.
So I think that's where it's at. Like none of that all the discipline that I learned when I was younger, it was purposed for self. Now that it's been repurposed for everyone else, for everyone else to have a piece. Because when we are given to those other people, I mean, when you're producing your best work, you're not thinking initially, oh my gosh, I can't wait for the awards, the indie film awards that I'm getting. I can't wait for them to see my work and be affected by it in a way that's going to boost their lives, change their lives.
Absolutely.
So in the same way, the things that I'm doing now, it's like the joy doesn't simply come from the result for myself, but the fruit that's been produced in that person over there.
Yeah. As a youth pastor here at City Church, what has been one experience, one conversation you had with somebody who's coming to the church looking for guidance, that has really impacted you in a super positive way? Like, what has been that experience for you?
Oh man,
I'm sure there's been quite a few, but I'm sure there's probably one that sticks out.
I got a story. I got a story for you, man, and it just happened on Monday. It just happened on Monday. So I'm not telling this story simply because it's the closest one I remember. I'm telling you it because it definitely is one that probably has moved the needle on what we're trying to do here, which is just to glorify God, to be an image of Jesus Christ, all those things. So in June, I was on the road for over 2 weeks, just speaking. I did 24 sermons in 12 weeks.
Oh wow!
So not 12 weeks, 24 sermons in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks.
Yeah, 24 sermons in 2 weeks.
That's even crazier.
So and I was away from the family for those 2 weeks and all that, and it was great. It was a great experience because one, there was a lot of youth that were up there in Michigan that are from the Fort Wayne area, and they felt convicted enough to now that they're starting to come to our youth ministry program. But not only that, they've brought their parents here and they're coming to church on Sunday mornings as well. And that's the goal, just to get the whole family involved.
Right.
But the story doesn't stop there. So there was one particular youth who she started coming, which has been great. And I just want to hold on to that thought right now, because on Sunday, as I was prepping for youth group, I went to lunch with some friends after church, and then I go back to prep for the evening, and I realize my wallet's gone. I can't find it. Can't find it. I'm like, oh crap! It's like someone I lost it maybe. I was like, all right, I don't have time to think about it, so I'm gonna go through the evening, and then I'll just it's probably in my car, probably fell between the seat, something stupid, right? And went home that night, looked through my car, looked through my Lauren's car, could not find it. Called the restaurant that we stayed at, it wasn't there, and then I'm like, oh man, like that feeling when you lose your wallet, bro. It's the worst feeling ever. Everything's in there. Everything's in there. Everything's in there. Yeah. And so I'm freaking out a little bit, but I'm like, all right. I was like, oh man, I remember. I was like, there's a tile in my wallet. So Lauren knew that I lose my wallet all the time. So Lauren knew. She's like, you need to put a tile in your wallet. Yeah. So I got into work in the morning, and I had to re-log in because I haven't used my tile in forever. Got it on, started pinging it, and then it was like looking, and then during my meeting Monday morning, I got a notification back. Hey, we found your wallet. We've located your wallet. Yeah. Where it was miles in the opposite direction of the restaurant.
Oh wow!
So and it was at a specific. It was like it's between either 617 4th Street or 625 Spring Street. It's like it's between one of those houses. So that means somebody took it.
Yeah.
Somebody stole my wallet.
Oh,
and so I'm like sitting there like heated. I'm like, oh man, I got time today. I'm gonna go down there. I'm gonna knock on every door and I'm gonna ask like, hey, where's my wallet? You know, I was like, I know it's here. And so after and that happened, I was like, oh, I gotta wait till this meeting though. So like that meeting goes for like 2 hours. So I'm like, all right, it still better be there. Look, it's still in that area. So I'm like, all right, drive down there. Really, kind of a sketchy part of Fort Wayne. Like every house, either was very like overrun with weeds, grass, boarded up windows, or the place just looked borderline vacant. Right. I spin the block and looking around. Like, all right, it's like call Lauren. Like, I was like, this is kind of sketchy. She's like, well, if I was in your body and I looked like you, I would knock on every door. And I'm like, dang. Like, so basically that's just her saying stop being a wimp and start knocking on these doors. So I was like, all right, bet. It's like, so for the next like 30 minutes, I'm knocking on these doors. A lot of them are not answering. And I can hear people in there. Like the cars are home, dogs are barking. Nothing. As I was doing that, I ran up. I came across the man outside, and he was, just had his 6-pack of Miller Lite, was just day drinking, just drinking beer. Old dude, older gentleman. And he sees my shirt, and my shirt says Yeshua, which is name of Jesus, right? And he's like, oh, Yeshua. And I'm like, yeah, man. He's like, I love that shirt, man. He's like, oh, I love that too. We start having a little conversation. I ask him about, I was like, hey, where's so-and-so address? He leads me down there. I start, knocking on more doors, all that good stuff. At this point, like I'm like knocked on all the doors, nothing, man. And so at this point, I'm like, you know what? Maybe I should go talk to that gentleman. He might know a little more about the neighborhood. Might be able to help me, connect with some of these neighbors, and they might be willing to help me find my wallet. Like that's all I was focused on. I was focused on finding my wallet.
Right.
I get down there. I start talking with him. And I tell him, I was like, hey, I'm looking it's either at this house or it's at, or one of these houses. And he's like, hey, I hate to break it to you, but all those houses down that way, those are the houses that the cops are always at, like every weekend. I was like, so all that to say, I was like, you're probably not gonna get your wallet back. And I'm like, all right. So at this point, I'm like, all right, my wallet's done. I was like, but I can still have a cool conversation with this person. He's, he noticed my shirt earlier. Maybe I could tell him about Jesus. We start having a conversation. I let him know, I start cracking jokes saying, oh, my church car was in there, so I guess they're eating on the church's dime today. And he's like, oh, what church do you go to? I was like, I go to City Church. Like, oh man, like, I was like, I think my daughter started going to that church after she came back from a camp in the summer. Wow. You see where this is going, okay? And I'm like, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking. I was like, what's your daughter's name? And he gives me your daughter's name. He's like, what's her wife? What's your ex-wife's name? He's like, oh, this. I was like, how? He's like, and then he goes, and then like, I don't say anything yet. I don't reveal anything. He's like, yeah, like, she's got some major mental health issues. I don't know, like, she's been really challenged. She's thought about ending her life, like all these different things. And I knew all that because she told me about it up at camp, and like, got to pray over her and all that. And I get to tell this man, I get to look in his eyes. I'm like, Dan. I was like, your daughter is getting baptized next Sunday. I was like, she's giving her life to Christ. She's been coming and seeing me every Sunday. And this dude just drops and just starts just bawling, just crying. And he's like, man, he's like, as you can see, like, my life isn't, where it needs to be. He points at the, the 3 or 4, Miller Lights that he's got emptied and the 2 other ones that he's got, on deck. He's like, I just lost my job. Just going through his whole life. He's like, man. Like the fact that she's like, I didn't even know that she gave her life to Christ. I didn't know that she was like truly committing herself to that. And then moving from that, he I don't know what to say at this point. So I'm like, all right. I started praying. I'm like, Lord, what do you want me to say? And the thing that he kept telling me, he's like tell him that he needs to live. I was like, okay, I don't know why. So I'm like, hey, I was like, the Lord, I was like my wallet got stolen for me to come down here and tell you that you need to live. And then that's when he really starts losing it. 2 seconds later, he pulls up his notes app on his phone, has a suicide note to his daughter, to that daughter, to his ex-wife, to his current wife, to everybody. Get the suicide note. And then he prayed a prayer. He's like, I had this written out late last week. And then I prayed, I was like, God, you need to show me a sign. If you don't, I'm done. Like, I can't do this anymore. And he's like, you just told me I need to live. I was like, God told you to tell you I need to live. And like you can't make this stuff up, dude.
That's
you can't make
crazy.
this just happened on Monday.
Yeah.
So if you want to talk about like a moment that happened, it came out of a situation where I shouldn't have been there in the first place. It came out of a situation where I thought I needed to go down there and reclaim what was mine, but what God was doing, no, I'm bringing you down there to reclaim what is mine. Like, you need to reclaim one of my people, because he was believing in me, but he's about to do something that's going to end his life too short
and devastate
and devastate all these people. I was like, because suicide has shrapnel, and the shrapnel hits. And so if you want to talk about something that has changed or a purpose that has been redefined, it's come down to the fact that, you know, I'm not just the youth pastor, I'm not just the young adult pastor, I don't just pastor our young people, I'm not just guiding those people, but he sent us on mission to do things that go beyond the scope of what the resume says. And so, you know, that's been one of the coolest, one of the realest, one of the rawest stories I've had so far in my time being here. Has come out of, you know, not from the pulpit. It didn't come from me preaching a sermon.
Out in the world.
It came
out in God's green earth, right?
It came in a place where I was annoyed. I was ticked off. I didn't even want to be there. I was thinking about myself at the time, and then God's like, dude, you don't even realize I didn't bring you for your wallet. I brought you to talk to this person.
That's crazy.
So
that is crazy. And just the small world, the connection
of all of that.
You know what I mean?
And so he was planning that back in June when I first met her. Back when she told me all that stuff.
Wow.
To now, end of July, you know, over a month later, and I meet her estranged father, who then goes on to tell me that he was about to take his life.
Yeah. That's crazy, man. That is definitely one of those things that if someone did not believe in God before, that is something that'll make you believe.
100%.
Because it's just like those moments where you're just, like you said, you're trying to plan something for yourself. You're trying to reclaim what's yours. There's a little bit of emotion put in there, but like you're walking into saving and speaking to another person who is going through a tougher situation than you, right? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And I mean, that's crazy, bro. That's wild.
It's like one of the Proverbs, man. You know, a man has his plans, but Lord establishes his steps. So we could think that we're walking towards one thing when he's like, no, actually, I need you to take a little step further. I was like, there's something over there. So there's been so much joy. There's been so much joy. And it makes the weight and that feeling of being responsible for other people's lives like just feel light, because you realize at the end of the day, man, again, we're not in control, dude. This life ain't just mine.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, man.
But you didn't find your wallet though?
Never found my wallet.
Dang.
So it's gone. It's gone, bro. So
I hope you canceled all those cards.
But here's the best part. All the cards have been canceled. No money has been taken off of it. My Big B Coffee Club card was in there, so they can rack up some points for me. I gotta leave a new Costco card today. Other than that, dude, I'll sacrifice my Costco card for Sunday.
That's beautiful, man. That's awesome. That's great.